Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 17 on DraftKings is about to conclude with a Monday night football game between the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be slow. This one has a total of 41.5. Neither team has very much confidence in their quarterbacks. They're going to try and establish the hell out of the run. The defenses are probably going to be trying to, it's bully ball. You know who likes a slate like this? You know who can't wait for a Monday Night Football Island game like this one? Sickos. That's who likes an island game like this one. Sickos. But somebody's got to win the money that's up top on DraftKings, so it might as well be us. So we're going to try and take a look at the slate, take a look at both teams, see where they throw the ball, talk about how to correlate our lineups, and build them in the Fantasy Labs lineup builder with the projections from establishtheRun.com. If you want a discounted subscription to either one of those two sites or both, they are linked down below. Smizzle.tv/ETR for Establish the Run. They have a great basketball product as well as NFL, and smizzle.tv/labs with an uppercase L if you wanted to go check out the great tools and content that they have over at fantasylabs.com. So use those links. Appreciate it. Support the people that support us. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the notifications bell. Let's go.
He's a legend.
All right, so DraftKings has a $2.2 million prize pool for this one. First place and a TOC entry if you take this one down. As I said, it's a really ugly game. We're going to start with Cleveland, just for the sake of starting with Cleveland. Nick Chubb, if you are going to pick a captain from Cleveland, it is likely going to end up being Nick Chubb, but he is the highest priced captain on the slate. Best percentage chance at getting you the 100-yard bonus. Highest touchdown upside on the team with their team total of 22.5. Chubb is great. However, they are on the road. They don't utilize him all the time in passing situations, although 4 targets in 3 of the last 4 games is a great deal of an uptick from where he was the first half of the season. So at least in the absence of Kareem Hunt, he has been utilized, although they've used Dearness Johnson. No, I think Dearness Johnson since week 10 has gotten 20 targets, and Nick Chubb's gotten 19 since week 10. That was the point when Odell Beckham Jr. Departed. Now, Kareem Hunt practiced in a limited capacity this week. He is questionable for the game. He was on COVID list. He's had an ankle issue. The Browns apparently, look, the Browns, because of the Bengals win against Kansas City, that ended the Browns playoff hopes. So they're just out here playing for pride. We'll see if they get Kareem Hunt back on the field or not. Monitor that situation before lineup lock gets there, right? You'll know 90 minutes before whether he's active or inactive. If he's inactive, that means that Dearness Johnson will fulfill that secondary role with the possibility of Demetric Felton, who I think is like 300, right? Being like that one-off, he's 200. Where like if he catches a ball or two, if he gets you 2 or 3 fantasy points at $200 in the flex, that opens up for you to be able to get those other high price guys. It's showdown. He's not like the best projected value ever. He's not a must play. He's just the guy that you have to pay attention to in case something happens. So Nick Chubb lineups at captain, we don't really have to correlate with. Baker Mayfield has not been great, Bob. He has actually been worse since they got rid of Odell Beckham Jr., who was blamed for all the team's woes when he was there. He is averaging 3.5 less fantasy points per game since Odell Beckham left versus the games he's played with Odell Beckham Jr. this year. And if you're going to use him in the captain spot, we're going to stack him with at least 2 of his pass catchers. I'm probably not going to have very much Baker Mayfield at captain at all, but I understand that the field is going to do it. And so if you're going to do it, if you think that he can have one of those games, maybe he runs for 1, throws for 300, passes for 2, and is a viable captain, and maybe those touchdown passes go to different players where there's not one guy who totally eats, you're going to have to stack him with a couple of his players. Since week 10, this is obviously a different team since OBJ left versus when he was there. Landry leading the way with 58 targets. Donovan Peoples-Jones second on the team in that time frame with 45 targets. We'll add him to that group. Austin Hooper with 38 has a 1 target edge over David Njoku, who has 37 across that time frame. And Higgins comes in behind him. with 28 targets. Now taking a look at the Browns total targets here, you can see that kind of lines up in that way, as this is what they had before, just like we kind of talked about. 16% for Jarvis Landry, Hooper with 14%, and Njoku with 12.5%. DPJ is the one who's taken a large step forward over what, if people look at the entire season versus what they've done maybe since week 10, and they're a different team with Odell Beckham there, Odell Beckham gone. That's what it is. And also, I think that DPJ has seen more red zone usage in the last few weeks than has Jarvis Landry as well. So that's the way that I would go if I was going to do that. If you believe that one of these pass catchers is going to be the most viable captain, if you think Jarvis Landry is going to end the day with an 8-catch game for a touchdown, possibly 2, there's not going to be a lot of scoring here. 2.5 touchdowns is the Steelers' expectation. 3 touchdowns is the Browns' expectation. So if one player gets 2 touchdowns, if 8 catches, 115 and 2 touchdowns, that's a recipe for a captain on this slate. That's all it's going to take to massively separate themselves. This game does not look like it has any possibility of getting like the Cincinnati Kansas City game did on Sunday, where there's 60, 70 total points scored. If this game goes high, it's 45, 46 total points. So there's not a lot of touchdowns. They're going to be at a premium. And if you have somebody that scores multiple, that's going to mean they're going to be your optimal captain on that night. And if you believe that it's going to be Landry, I'm going to be tying Baker Mayfield too, because if he has one of those nights, it's going to drag Baker along with him. Same thing goes if you're going to be, where did he go? If you're going to pile DPJ in there at captain and try and save a little money, same thing if you're going to be piling Hooper or Njoku in that spot. Looking over at Pittsburgh, we have the Ben Roethlisberger Kobe game, I guess, the final home game that he's going to be playing for Pittsburgh, allegedly. And again, he has not been great, but he's had a couple of games this year against high-powered opponents where they had to keep up and score, who don't have great defenses against the pass, like Minnesota. The Chargers, he put up 23 points, but every other game, sub 20. Even with that, again, if we're going to play him at captain, you've got to basically, I'm not going to be playing Ben Roethlisberger at captain, but if you're going to be building Ben captain lineups, same rule applies. Build that first group with 2 of his pass catchers, bring it back with 1 of the opponent's offensive players. We'll talk about the tools that are at our disposal on Fantasy Labs as far as that's concerned. Looking at Pittsburgh's targets on the year, it's Deontay Johnson, and then it's everybody else. So Chase Claypool with 96 targets, 16% of the market share targets versus 27% for Deontay Johnson. Then Najee Harris, then Freiermuth, who's depending mostly on touchdown upside, and so is Claypool. The problem is that they're also priced for it. So Freiermuth at 9,900 in the captain spot hasn't seen more than 4 targets since week 11. Obviously, he's missed a little bit of time last week, week 16, with the concussion that he had. He is on par to be back for this game and ready to go. He practiced all week long. But are we really expecting 7, 8, 9, 10 targets from him? No, he's probably gonna get somewhere between 3 and 6 targets, though when they get in close, a lot of his value has been soaked up with the 7 touchdowns that he scored this year. Without them, he gets you 7 to 12 fantasy points if he does not get a touchdown. So it's not really a big upside play at the captain spot, though his biggest game against Chicago, I think that was an island game where he was the optimal captain in that one. So if he scores multiple touchdowns, then yeah, you've got the opportunity for him to be that, but you're betting on multiple touchdowns there. Same thing goes for Chase Claypool, who is basically being priced up at this point on the fact that he could score touchdowns, even though he has not scored touchdowns at any point this year. He's got 1. They do spread the ball around. They do look towards the tight end. They've been taking the most shots downfield, and the 2 optimal captain plays for this Steelers team are going to be Deontay Johnson with his 2 worst games of the year coming in back-to-back weeks, and basically every other week except 2, he's had 10 to 15 targets in every one of those games. I believe that they're going to have to get back to that in this one. They do project to play from behind, though they play at home. If he gets you 10 targets, based on his average depth of target, the expected DraftKings points that Deontay Johnson brings is about 1.65 points per target. So if he gets you 10 targets in a game, you should expect 16.5 points from him on a raw projection. They've also taken more deep shots to Deontay Johnson this year than they have ever before. If you have Deontay Johnson, you're probably going to be tying Ben Roethlisberger to him at captain, or at least boosting. If you have Deontay, I would probably not 100% tie Ben Roethlisberger, but I would probably boost Ben Roethlisberger just specifically on a slate like this one. Like, I have my standard rules that I go with, but sometimes you have to be able to break those based on specific situations. The other captain that I think would be optimal on Pittsburgh is going to be Najee Harris, who gets the most volume on the team, both in the running game and the passing game. Gets you a lot of inside the 5 carries. Very involved in the pass game. Not going to have to tie anything to him because of running back and captain. There's really not all that much that you have to do. So going over to Fantasy Labs, like I said, I don't like this game. It's slow. It's ugly. Both teams are going to try and run the ball, which means less offensive plays. Less offensive plays means less opportunities for us to flex our knowledge against opponents, because any touchdown is going to blow everything out of the water. So hopefully the touchdowns go to the players that we want them to go to. The rules that I typically set for Showdown: I do not allow a kicker or a defensive captain. I know that it's been on 2 of the, if we have 3 island games a week, right? Those are the biggest pool games. Yes, they have Showdown games for every single game on the weekend slates, but like the 3 island games, I think over the course of this year, we've had 50 of those at this point, give or take. 2 of those have ended up with a defensive captain, none of them with a kicker. And I've said before, you can't cover everything, and it's probably better to put yourself in a position to say, look, if the field is going to do this way more than they should, and the field does play defense as a captain way more than it should, definitely way more than they win, I just have to chalk those games up, or those slates up, to that. When it ends up that way, that's just not a slate that I'm going to win. So I'm not going to allow kicker and defense. I have a little bit of bounce in here, meaning shuffle, randomness, and here's the rules that we typically set. And if you wanted to tweak those for this particular game, I totally understand, but basically we go with pair your captain quarterback with at least 2 of their wide receiver, their pass catchers, wide receiver, tight end, and kicker. Pair the captain quarterback with at least 1 offensive player on the opponent, not the kicker, not the defense. Pair your captain wide receiver with their QB, pair the captain tight end with their QB, and limit to at most 1 defense or kicker from the same game. I might expand that to 2 on this slate, because it is a lower scoring game with defense or offenses that are not extremely efficient at getting into the end zone, and 2 defensive lines that do a good job applying pressure, which could lead us to getting a lot more sacks and possibly turnovers in this game, making the defenses more viable. So expanding to that, getting it to 150. As always, we're going to set this to sort by floor, so that anybody who fast forwards to this part of the video gets absolutely no lineups that they can use off the lineup builder, because running a lineup builder vanilla one time is never going to give you what you want. You have to spend a lot of time making sure that you get the allocations that you want. And the last group that I suggest you build is that low percentage player group, something that you're going to find out as we get closer to lock, with at least one of like 4 to 7 different players, because as you get closer to lock and as you play Showdown, you're going to realize that these teams or these games are going to be split by a multitude of people. And if you happen to hit on the winning lineup, you'd rather split with 5 or 10 people, or hopefully take it down solo, then put yourself in a spot where you're going to share with 100 to 1,000 different people with a very chalky lineup with high percentages throughout. So forcing those low percentage players into every lineup, at least one of them, puts you in a better position that when you win the most possible. So thank you guys for watching. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.